Lyra Veth walked through the long glass corridor of the Interspecies Academy, her soft steps echoing across the polished floor. The Academy was a place where young minds from many worlds came to learn together. Humans, aliens, hybrids, and even a few species that needed special habitat suits. It was a peaceful place. But Lyra herself felt anything but peaceful today. She was an alien from the quiet and thoughtful world of Valeris, known for their calm nature and unique gifts. Some Valerians could sense small emotional waves around others, but Lyra's gift was far stronger. She could sense dishonesty. She did not hear words in her mind. She did not see visions. Instead, she felt emotional, pulsatini vibrations in the air whenever someone spoke something false. It was like a sudden ripple across her skin. She had lived with this ability from childhood, and while useful, it also made her different. Too different, she often thought. Today was her first day at the academy, and she was nervous. She carried a small data tablet, holding it firmly with both hands as she walked. The hallways were busy with students, each one looking excited and curious. Lyra wished she felt the same. Instead, she was preparing herself for hundreds of new faces.
New voices.
New emotions, and perhaps new lies. She stepped into a large training hall where the first-year cadets were gathering. The room was bright, filled with banners from different planets. Humans in simple uniforms stood beside tall insectoid species. Aquatic beings walked in special water layer suits. The air buzzed with soft conversation. Lyra took a calming breath and tried to focus. She reminded herself of her instructor's words back home. Your ability is a gift, Lyra, but you must trust yourself and not fear it. As she moved toward the registration desk, she did her best to ignore the waves of emotions around her. Many students were excited. Some were nervous like her. A few were tired from their long journeys. But so far no dishonesty, at least not directed at her. Then she heard a cheerful human voice behind her. New here too? She turned slightly and found herself looking up at a young human man with brown hair and friendly eyes. He wore the standard academy uniform, but not in a sloppy way, more like someone who took care without really trying. He gave her a gentle smile. I am Lyra, Veth of Valaris, she said politely. Evan Corin, the human said. Nice to meet you. The moment he spoke, Lyra felt nothing unusual, no emotional ripple. His words were clear and honest, like a calm lake with no wind. She blinked, a little surprised. Humans were supposed to be more difficult for her to sense. Their emotional fields changed quickly and unpredictably. But Evans felt steady, warm, and surprisingly open. She nodded politely. Trying not to stare? Is this your first time off your homeworld? Evan asked as they walked toward the same table. Yes, she said quietly. I studied many cultures, but this is my first real experience meeting them. Well, you picked the busiest place in the galaxy to start, Evan said with a small laugh. Everyone here is different, but that's what makes it fun. Fun. She wondered if she would ever see it that way, but she appreciated the attempt. He seemed sincere, and she felt no ripple of dishonesty when they finished registration. The two of them were directed to the main briefing hall for the academy orientation. The hall was very large, almost like a small stadium. Students took their seats as holographic projectors activated around the room. The academy crest shimmered in the air. Lyra sat beside Evan, mostly because every other seat near her felt too overwhelming emotionally. She was still adjusting to so many people in one place. An academy officer stepped onto the central platform. He was a tall alien from the Telser species, known for their sharp speech and precise logic. He raised a hand to quiet the room. Welcome, cadets, he said in a strong voice. This academy will train you to work together, think together, and build a future where all species cooperate with honor. We will begin with a review of your orientation schedule and some important rules. Lyra listened closely. The officer's words flowed clearly, and she felt nothing strange. No lies, no hidden intentions. Just the expected amount of tiredness from someone who had probably given this speech many times. Then the officer pressed a small control on his wrist device. A large map of nearby star systems appeared above him. Our academy will host joint missions this cycle. These missions are peaceful learning journeys. You will not be placed in danger. Each team will be assigned one supervising officer. Lyra suddenly froze. In the middle of the officer's sentence, she felt a sharp ripple against her skin. A sudden burst of emotional distortion. It hit her like a burst of cold air. A lie. Someone had spoken something false. Her eyes instantly went to the officer, but he continued speaking smoothly, and there was no new ripple. No pulse, no surge, which meant the lie had not come from him. She turned her head slowly, her senses wide open. But the room was full of voices now. Soft whispers. Quiet shifting. A few murmurs from students, confused by the holograms. Another pulse hit her. She inhaled sharply. Someone nearby was hiding something. Someone had spoken soft enough that only the closest students heard it. But Lyra sensed it. Her pulse quickened. She scanned the row behind her. No one looked suspicious. They all stared at the officer. Another ripple, this one weaker. But still clear, someone was whispering false. Information to another student. Lyra's fingers tightened around the edge of her seat. She had trained for years, but she had never felt this kind of deception in a place meant to be safe and orderly. She leaned slightly toward Evan. "Did you hear anything just now?" she asked softly. Evan blinked. "Just the officer." "Why?" Someone near us is speaking," she whispered. Quietly, but not truthfully, Evan gave her a careful look, as if trying to understand. "Do you mean someone is lying?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded once. "Can you tell who?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not yet. Too many voices." Evan leaned back in his chair and looked around with a calm expression. People probably just gossip during these briefings. Maybe someone exaggerated something. But Lyra shook her head once more. No, this was different. Stronger, more intentional. Evan stopped making assumptions and focused fully. "Okay, do you want to move seats? Maybe it will help." Lyra considered it, but decided against it. The ripples had already faded. Whoever spoke was silent now. "No," she said quietly. "I must listen. Maybe it will happen again." Yvonne did not question her further. He simply nodded, accepting her words without doubt. There was sincerity in him against steady and calm. The briefing continued for another 20 minutes. Lyra sat perfectly still, trying not to show her unease. She sensed no further dishonesty. But the earlier pulses still stayed in her memory, chilling her. After the briefing, students began leaving the hall. Evan stood up and waited for her. "Want to walk together?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly. She genuinely felt better near him, and that surprised her. As they left the hall, Evan glanced sideways at her. "Do you think the lie was about the briefing itself? Something important?" Lyra slowed her steps. "That is what worries me," she admitted. "I think it was connected to the mission details. Someone whispered something false right when the officer said the missions were safe." Evan frowned. "But they are safe. The academy wouldn't risk students." Lyra did not answer. Instead, she looked back at the emptying hall. Her eyes thoughtful and troubled. Her gift had never failed her before, and today, for the first time at the academy, it warned her that something was not as safe as the officer claimed. But the strangest part, the lie had not come from the human beside her. His presence remained calm and honest. The lie came from someone else, someone who did not want others to know the truth. Lyra Veth spent most of the evening trying to calm her thoughts. But the memory of the emotional ripple sharp and cold refused to leave her mind. She sat by the wide window of her dorm room looking out at the academy courtyard below. Soft lights glowed along the walkways. Students of different species moved across the grounds. Talking excitedly about their first day, everything looked peaceful. But Lyra's senses remembered the lie. It had been clear, strong, and deliberate. Someone had spoken something false, right? When the officer talked about the safety of the mission, Lyra had never sensed dishonesty without reason. Her ability was precise. Her mentors always told her that it reacted only to focused falsehood. It's not small jokes or accidental mistakes. This lie had purpose behind it. As she sat there, the door chimed softly. Lyra stood and opened it. Evan Corrin stood outside with a relaxed posture, hands in his pockets, a concerned expression on his face. "Can I come in?" he asked politely. "Yes," she said, stepping back. He walked inside and looked around. The room was simple. A bed, a desk, a small table, and a shelf for personal items. Valerian designs were calm and soft, so the room had gentle curved edges and warm colors. Evan turned to her. "You didn't look fine after the briefing, so I wanted to check on you." "I'm fine," she said. A small ripple of emotion touched her skin, the ripple of her own voice not quite true. She sighed and corrected herself. "I am concerned." Yvonne nodded. "It's about that lie you sensed." "Yes." He sat on the chair near the table. "Tell me everything exactly as you felt it." Lyra sat across from him. She spoke slowly, choosing simple words. When the officer said the missions would be safe, someone whispered something untrue. It was not loud. It was not meant for many to hear. But the dishonesty was strong. Could it be a student joking? Evan asked gently. "No," she said firmly. This lie carried worry, and something hidden, it felt. Like someone wanted another person to believe something wrong. Evan leaned back, thinking. "Okay, so someone whispered a lie? Something about the mission, but we don't know who." Lyra lowered her eyes. "Yes, and I am worried because I cannot sense the speaker's identity. Only the dishonesty." Evan nodded again, more serious this time. "Then we need to report it." Lyra hesitated. She had thought about that too. "But what if they do not believe me?" She whispered. Evan gave a small smile. "Then I'll be there with you." She stared at him for a moment, trying to understand why a human she had barely met believed her so easily. Most people questioned her ability. Some even avoided her. But Evan accepted her words simply, without doubt. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Let's go," he replied. The Academy Council office was in the central building. Tall and shining with glass and metal patterns, Lyra walked beside Evan through the quiet corridors. Her steps felt heavy inside the office. The night duty officer, a calm-looking Serenian with blue skin, greeted them. "Cadets, do you need assistance?" Evan nodded. "Yes, we have something important to report." The officer looked between them, then guided them to a small meeting room. Once inside, Lyra explained everything, how she sensed dishonesty during the briefing, how the lie felt connected to the mission statement, and how the speaker was not the Telsur officer. She spoke clearly, carefully, and honestly. When she finished, the Serenian officer folded his hands together and gave a slow blink. "So you are saying you sensed a lie?" he said calmly. Double quotes, "Yes," Lyra replied. "And you believe this lie means someone is hiding information about the mission's safety?" "Yes," she repeated. The officer tilted his head slightly. "Cadet Lyra, your species is known for emotional sensing, but as you may know, your abilities sometimes misread human emotional waves." Lyra felt a sting of frustration. "The lie did not come from a human," she said. "I am certain. But at the moment you sensed this lie, only the officer was speaking loudly," the Serenian pointed out. "Yes, but someone else whispered." Lyra leaned forward. "I am sure." The officer gave a patient smile. "Cadet, many students whisper during briefings. They talk about their schedules, their luggage, their meals. It is possible you sensed simple confusion or nervousness." Lyra's hands tightened. "No, it was dishonesty." Evan stepped in. "Sir, she's sure. I believe her." The officer gave him a polite nod. "Cadet Corrin, your support is noted. But we cannot take action based on a single emotional ripple. There must be more evidence before we investigate something so sensitive." Lyra inhaled slowly. "You do not believe me." "It is not about belief," the officer said gently. "It is about following process." He stood, signaling the conversation was ending. "I appreciate your concern, but for now, I advise you both to rest." If something unusual happens again, please report it immediately. Lyra stood quietly. Evan gave her a sympathetic look. The officer added, and Cadet LaRue, abilities are valued here. But remember, the academy is a large place. Many emotions interact. Sometimes signals can mix. Lyra bowed her head slightly, though inside she felt a growing worry. Signal mixing was possible. But dishonesty was always sharp, clear, and distinct for her. She knew what she sensed. Outside the office, Evan sighed. I'm sorry they didn't take it seriously. It is not your fault, Lyra said softly. I expected this. But I believe you, he said. She looked at him gratefully. Thank you. They walked out into the cool night air. Lights shimmered across the academy grounds. Students laughed near the cafeteria, unaware of anything strange. Evan walked beside her in silence for a moment before speaking again. What do you want to do now? He asked. I must understand what the lie was about, Lyra said slowly. It was connected to the mission. I am sure of that, Evan nodded. Then we'll look into the mission details. Lyra blinked. Is that allowed? We won't break rules, Evan said. We'll just review the public logs and data schedules. Maybe something is strange there, Lyra thought for a moment. Yes, that is a good start. They headed toward the study hall. It was open at all hours, filled with data terminals and screens. The hall was quiet at night, with only a few students studying in soft pools of light. Lyra and Evan chose a table in the corner. Evan powered on the data screen while Lyra watched the glowing interface. Let's search for the mission briefing details. He said the screen displayed schedules. Star maps, team assignments, and safety notes. Everything looked normal on the surface. But Lyra felt an odd tension in her chest. Scroll back, she said softly. Evan scrolled. Stop. Her eyes narrowed. There was a line in the mission description that felt strange. Not false, her ability did not sense dishonesty from written data. But strange. Look here, she said. It read, primary mission route confirmed. All sectors safe and stable. No active disturbances. Evan frowned. This looks normal, Lyra shook her head. The officer said this exact line. And that is when the lie happened. Okay. Evan leaned forward. So maybe the whisper was about those sectors not being safe. Lyra's heart tightened. Yes, that is what worries me. Evan scrolled further. There at the very bottom of the section was a small Symbolon old-style icon marking updated records. Evan tapped it. A message appeared. Last update, 14 days ago. Evan looked surprised. But the officer said everything was checked yesterday. Lyra's breath caught. The rippled the lie. Someone had whispered something false during that exact moment. But the public logs showed the sectors had not been updated in 2 weeks. Slowly, Lyra whispered, something is not right. Evan met her eyes. Then we need to keep looking. But even as he said the words, Lyra felt a faint tremor move across her skin. A new emotional ripple. Very thin. Very distant. Not from Evan. Someone somewhere in the hall was uneasy and possibly watching them. The study hall felt calm on the surface, soft lights, quiet corners, and the gentle sound of screens turning pages. But Lyra Veth felt nothing calm inside herself. The small emotional tremor she sensed a moment ago still pulsed faintly in her mind. Someone in the hall had reacted to something. Maybe to her and Evan investigating the mission logs. She didn't want to jump to conclusions. Yet her ability rarely misread fear or unease. Those emotions were always sharp. Evan, sitting across from her, didn't sense what she felt. He was studying the screen with focused eyes. These logs don't match the officer's words, he said. If the sectors were checked yesterday, why do the files show the last update was 2 weeks ago? Lyra nodded slowly. It means someone is not telling the truth. But we do not know who. Evan leaned back. We need to dig deeper. Lyra looked around the hall again, cautious. She didn't sense any more tremors. Whoever reacted earlier was now calm, more had left. Evan continued scrolling through the mission files. Most of it showed simple charts, maps of space routes, and team assignments. But something felt too perfect. To clean, Evan, Lyra whispered. Yeah. These files, do they seem normal to you? He frowned and looked again. Normal on the surface? Yes. But I've seen enough data files before. Sometimes the cleanest ones hide the most. She tilted her head. How can something clean hide something? Evan thought for a moment. If someone wants to hide information, they sometimes make the file look too perfect. No errors, no missing pages, no updates. It makes people think nothing is wrong. Lyra blinked. That is strange, as Evan agreed. So let's look deeper. He started searching through older versions of the mission logs. Lyra leaned close, her eyes scanning the lines. More maps appeared. More charts. More identical safety. Notes, everything looked exactly the same for the last month. That alone was suspicious. Should there not be changes? Lyra asked. There should, Evan replied. Space sectors change all the time. Conditions update daily. Lyra looked troubled. But here everything is the same. Evan nodded slowly. It means someone copied the same file again and again. Maybe to hide something new. Lyra felt a small shiver. Someone is trying to hide the truth. Evan leaned in, whispering softly, then we'll find it. They continued reading. After almost 20 minutes, Evan's eyes caught something in a corner of the interface. Wait, he said softly. What's this? A small symbol, almost invisible, flashed near the bottom of the screen. It was a code marker. Data fragment, Evan whispered. Someone tried to erase something but left a piece behind. Lyra felt a quiet stir of hope. Can you open it? I'll try. Evan tapped the symbol. The screen flickered, then displayed a tiny hidden data note. Unauthorized fleet movement detected. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Fleet movement. Near our mission route? Evan scrolled down. Another line was revealed. Report pending. Do not update main file. Lyra froze. Do not update? That means someone stopped the update. Evan nodded firmly. Someone blocked the new information. Someone higher up. Lyra's heart pounded. She could feel the truth in Evan's voice, steady and honest. Evan, she whispered. Does this mean the mission is not safe? He didn't answer quickly. He took a deep breath before replying. It means something is happening in that space sector. Something the Academy didn't want the new cadets to see. Lyra sat back, thinking about the lie she sensed during the briefing. The whisper. The fear someone knew, someone in the briefing hall had known the missions might not be safe, and whispered something false to someone else. But why? Lyra felt her skin prickle. Evan, do you think the whisper came from someone involved with this hiding? Evan gave her a serious look. Maybe, or maybe someone overheard something earlier and didn't want others to panic. Either way, this isn't small. The study hall door opened suddenly, making Lyra jump. A group of students walked in laughing softly. She felt no dishonesty from them, but her nerves stayed tight. Evan lowered his voice even more. We need to check the officer who gave the briefing. Lyra stiffened. The Telser officer. Yes, Evan said. If someone blocked these updates, the briefing officer should have known. And if he didn't know, maybe someone else told him what to say. Lyra took a slow breath. How can we check? We look at his records, his schedule, his last assignments. Anything connected to him? Lyra nodded. Let us search. Evan switched the screen to the Academy staff database. Lyra watched carefully, memorizing every line. The officer's name appeared, Commander Ralvin Telser. His file was long. He was experienced, respected, and known for strict discipline. But as they read further, Lyra noticed something unusual. Evan, look here. She pointed at a small note in the corner, assigned to diplomatic escort mission. Sector 9. Report filed privately. Evan frowned. Sector 9 is near the area of our mission. Lyra nodded slowly. What is privately filed? It means the report wasn't added to the public logs, Evan said. Only high-level staff can see it. Lyra felt a thin pulse of unease. Do you think that report holds the truth? Maybe, Evan replied. But we can't access private reports. We need another way. They read further. Another strange line appeared. Officer Ralvin, relieved from escort duty early. Reason, undisclosed. Evan stared. Undisclosed reason? That's suspicious, Lyra whispered. Something is wrong with this officer's history. Evan nodded. He might know more than he said during the briefing. Lyra placed her hands on the table gently. So someone lied. Someone hid information. And someone whispered something wrong during the briefing. Yes, Evan said. And all three might be connected. Lyra looked around the hall again. This time, she did not sense fear or dishonesty. The presence that trembled earlier was gone. But she could not ignore the feeling that someone had been watching. Them, someone who did not want them. Learning the truth, Evan saved some notes on a private data pad. We should make copies, he said. Just in case? In case of what? Lyra asked softly. In case the files disappear later, Lyra nodded. That made sense. As they stood from the table, she suddenly felt a soft ripple, gentle, not sharp. It was the emotional signature of curiosity. Someone nearby was watching them. Lyra turned her head slightly. At the far end of the room, a quiet alien student sat alone, pretending to read. He looked away quickly when she noticed. Her senses told her the student was not dishonest, but he was nervous. Evan, she whispered. I know, he whispered back. Don't look too much. Let's walk casually. They left the study hall calmly. But Lyra felt the strange pressure of being observed even after the doors closed behind them. Once outside, Evan exhaled. We definitely need to be careful. Yes, Lyra said. Someone is aware of our search. Evan glanced at her. Do you think the same person whispered during the briefing? Lyra shook her head. The emotional pulse was different. The whisper was sharp and urgent. The student inside was only nervous. Evan nodded slowly. Then there are more people involved. Lyra felt a growing sense of unease. We must continue carefully. Evan gave a determined nod. We'll check the officers' movements tomorrow, and we'll compare them with the fleet movements we saw in the hidden file. Lyra breathed deeply. Yes, that is the next step. They walked toward their dorm buildings. The night was calm, the academy peaceful, but Lyra's mind was full of shadows. Hidden reports, secret fleet movements, a lie whispered at a critical moment, and someone quietly watching them. She whispered softly, the truth is close. I can feel it. Evan walked beside her, steady and calm as always. Then we'll find it, together. And for the first time since the briefing, Lyra felt a small spark of hope inside the worry. Morning light touched the academy grounds with soft gold, but Lyra Veth felt heavier than the night before. She walked beside Evan Corrin through the main courtyard. Students hurried around them, talking about classes, schedules, and training drills, but Lyra barely noticed. Her mind was fixed on the hidden data, the strange officer reports, the whisper of dishonesty she had sensed. Evan walked calmly, but she could see the focus in his eyes. He was thinking hard, studying the clues again and again in his mind. We need to find the detailed record of Commander Ralvin's movements, he said quietly. If something happened during his mission, it might explain everything. Lyra nodded. Yes, and we must be careful. Someone watched us yesterday. Evan nodded. That's why we'll keep everything quiet today. They reached the academy's administrative wing. The building was tall and filled with long white corridors. They entered with confidence but stayed alert. Their first stop was the mission. Archive room, a place where officers stored reports, flight logs, and records. Cadets were not usually allowed inside without permission. But the outer section had terminals for training research. Evan walked to an open terminal and typed quickly. Lyra stood close, her eyes scanning the hall for anyone suspicious. A tall security bot moved past them. But its attention was elsewhere. Here it is, Evan whispered. Commander Rolvin's public report list. Lyra looked at the screen. Rolvin's recent missions were listed neatly. No errors, no delays. No unexpected events. Everything looks clean, she said softly. Exactly, Evan replied. To clean. Let's open the escort mission report. He tapped the screen. A message flashed. Access limited. Permission required. They both exhaled slowly. Lyra whispered. This means the report holds important information, or sensitive information, Evan added. They stared at the locked file for a moment. Lyra felt tension building in her chest. Evan suddenly said, Let's try the officer's schedule logs. Those are sometimes less protected. He opened the scheduling files, searching for Commander Ralvin. After a few seconds, the results appeared. Lyra leaned closer. This part, she whispered. It feels strange. The line read, Commander Ralvon, assigned to escort duty. Early return. Debrief location, Research Wing for B. Evan looked at her. Research Wing for B? That's not normal for mission debriefs. What is in Research Wing 4B? Lyra asked. Special research, security technology, diplomatic archives, Evan said. Only a few officers have access there. Lyra felt a faint emotional shift. Cold tremor. Not dishonesty, but hidden fear. Coming from somewhere deep inside the building, someone was worried. Evan saw her expression change. Lyra, what did you sense? Fear, she whispered. Not close. But somewhere inside this wing? Evan straightened. Then that's exactly where we're going. Research Wing for B was located at the far end of the administrative building. The hallway was quieter, the lights slightly dimmer, and only a few doors lined the walls. Warning signs reminded visitors that only authorized personnel could enter certain rooms. The heavy door to Wing for B stood at the D end. Lyra felt a small pulse beneath her skin, a soft wave of tension in the air. Someone inside is uneasy, she said quietly. Evan nodded. Let's be careful. A scanning device checked their badges as they approached the security desk. Cadets were allowed to enter the outer rooms of most research wings, but not the deeper sections. As they stepped inside, the air felt cooler. The rooms around them were filled with equipment, data screens, and sealed storage cases. Lyra walked slowly, her senses open. Look for anything with Commander Ralvin's name, Evan whispered. They checked screens, shelves, and record pads. For several minutes, they found nothing unusual. Then Evan's eyes caught something. Here, on a desk in the corner, sat a small data cube labeled Mission Debrief, Sector 9. Lyra's heart quickened. This is it. Evan picked up the cube carefully and placed it into the nearby terminal. The screen lit up with a file menu, but before he could open it, a door behind them opened. Footsteps approached. Lyra spun around quickly. Commander Ralvin stood in the doorway, his sharp Telsur eyes fixed on them. His expression was unreadable, but his posture was tense. What are you two doing here? Ralvin asked firmly. Evan stepped forward. Sir, we're researching information for our assignment. This area is restricted, Ralvin replied. Cadets are not allowed to access debrief materials. Lyra stepped closer, her voice calm but steady. Commander, the public logs have missing updates, and your escort mission file has unusual marks. We wish to understand why. Ralvin's eyes narrowed. Those logs have nothing to do with cadets. Lyra felt a small ripple of emotion, fear mixed with frustration. Not dishonesty. Not yet. But something unstable, sir, Evan said respectfully. The mission sectors might not be safe. If something happened out there enough, Ralvin said sharply. The emotional wave hit Lyra immediately. A lie, a sharp ripple, unmistakable, yes. She whispered, her skin prickling. He is hiding something. Ralvin stepped back, surprised by her words. Cadet, you do not understand. You spoke something untrue, she said quietly. Just now. You know something important about the mission. Ralvin's jaw tightened. Then, he moved not to attack, but toward the terminal. He reached for the control panel as if to close the file. Evan moved faster. No. He rushed forward and pressed the panel first. The screen locked with a soft click, preventing Ralvin from deleting or closing anything. Ralvin froze. Staring at Evan in shock. You shouldn't have done that, Ralvin said quietly. Sir, Evan said firmly, the truth matters, especially when student safety is involved. Lyra stepped forward. Please, We only want to know what is hidden. We do not want trouble. Ralvan exhaled slowly. His shoulders lowered. The fear she sensed earlier grew stronger. Finally, he spoke. There were disturbances in the mission sector. Lyra felt no dishonesty. Then why were the reports blocked? She asked. Ralvan closed his eyes briefly. Because the Academy Council did not want the new cadets to worry. They wished to keep morale high. They told me to use old data for the briefing. Lyra felt a wave of frustration. You knew the sectors were not fully safe. Yes, Ralvan whispered. But I was ordered not to tell. Evan clenched his fists. But someone whispered a lie during the briefing. Someone you may have known. Ralvan looked at him sharply. What lie? Lyra explained what she sensed, how a student whispered something false at the exact moment. Ralvan repeated the line about safe sectors. Ralvan frowned. Then someone else also knew. Someone who shouldn't. Who? Evan asked. Ralvan shook his head. I don't know. But if someone had information they shouldn't have, it means something larger is happening. Lyra felt another emotional tremor, faint but real. Not from Ralvan. From somewhere deeper inside the wing, she whispered, We are not alone. Evan turned. What do you sense? Someone else is listening, she said. Close. Ralvan stiffened. He stepped toward them. We need to leave the room. Now. But before they could move, an automated alarm suddenly blared through the hall. Warning, unauthorized file access detected. Lights flashed red. The security doors began to lock. Lyra gasped. Someone triggered the alarm. Evan grabbed her arm gently. We have to get out. Ralvan rushed to the panel. I didn't call security. Someone is trying to trap us. The heavy doors began sliding shut. Evan reached the override panel on the wall and typed quickly. I can stop it. Hurry. Lyra cried. The door slowed, paused, then stopped just before sealing fully. Evan exhaled sharply. Sweat touched his forehead. We're not locked in. Ralvan stared at him with a mixture of surprise and respect. You are. Very fast, human. Evan shrugged. Just a little practice. Lyra looked at both of them. Someone did not want us to see the truth. Ralvan nodded slowly. And now they know we're searching. Evan glanced at the still active data cube. Then we need to take this information to the council. Ralvan shook his head. The council might be involved. Or someone inside it. Lyra felt a cold shiver. Then what do we do? Ralvan looked at her with steady eyes. You sensed the lie first. Your ability will guide us. And the human beside you has strong instincts. Evan stepped closer. So we work together. Lyra took a deep breath. We must uncover everything. And in that moment, despite the alarm still echoing faintly in the halls, she felt a growing strength inside. The truth was close, and they would find it together. The Academy Council chamber felt different on the morning of the hearing. The tall glass walls, which usually shone with warm light from the twin suns, reflected a colder, quieter mood. Students from many species gathered outside the hall, whispering to each other. Some had heard pieces of the story. Others had only seen the alarms, the guards, and the sudden lockdown the night before. Everyone knew something important had happened. Inside the chamber, Lyra sat beside Evan at a long circular table. She pressed her palms together, trying to stay calm. Her senses were open but controlled. She wanted to be ready for any sign of dishonesty. Evan sat straight, hands folded, eyes steady but alert. He had barely slept, yet he looked focused. Council leader Aaron, a tall elder from Lyra's homeworld, stood at the center. His robe flowed in soft blue waves as he looked around the room. This hearing has one purpose, he said. We must understand what truly happened in the research wing last night. Lyra watched him carefully. His voice was steady, and his emotional presence was clear. No hidden lies. Not yet. 2 guards brought in Officer Wren, the one responsible for the secret files and false reports. He walked with stiff shoulders, his eyes hard and cold. When he sat down across from Lyra and Evan, she felt the familiar sharp pulse of dishonesty. It was weaker now, but still there. He was nervous. He was hiding something. The council members began asking questions. Officer. Oh. Ren was asked about the altered mission logs, the encrypted fleet movements, and the attempt to shut down the security doors during the confrontation. Each time he answered, his words were smooth and careful, but Lyra felt the truth behind them. She felt like moving sand. Evan watched her for confirmation. She gave a small nod each time she sensed something false. Finally, Council Leader Aaron looked at Lyra. "Cadet Lyra Veth," he said. "You claim you detected a lie during the mission briefing 2 days ago. Please explain to this council what you sensed." Lyra stood slowly. She looked around the large room, seeing many eyes from many species. Her voice had to be clear. Her thoughts had to be steady. In the briefing, she said, every person spoke with calm and honesty, except one emotional signal that did not match the words spoken. The lie came from Officer Wren. He said the mission fleet was secure, but he did not believe his own words. The council members whispered among themselves. They all knew Lyra's ability. Emotional resonance detection was rare and respected. Evan stood next. "I reviewed the logs with Lyra," he said. "We found small details missing timestamps, inconsistent movement patterns, minor shifts in digital signatures. Alone, they look meaningless. Put together, they form a hidden plan." Council Leader Aaron nodded. "And this plan was to create tension between allied worlds?" "It would have done worse," Evan answered. "If it continued, misunderstandings could grow into conflict. A single wrong message between fleets could start something none of us could stop." Lyra felt the seriousness in his voice. It held no fear, only determination. The council asked many more questions. Evan explained how he noticed the pattern in the encrypted data. Lyra described every moment her senses detected deception. The guards shared their own reports, confirming the officer tried to override the security system. Officer Wren finally spoke again. "This is all a mistake," he said firmly. "The cadets misread the data. The alarm was only a system test. There was no threat." The lie hit Lyra like a cold wind. She stepped forward. "That is not true," she said quietly, but her voice carried across the room. "You are still hiding something." Officer Wren's eyes narrowed. "Your ability is not perfect, cadet." "My ability may not be perfect," Lyra replied, "but it is trained and it is consistent. You have been dishonest from the moment this began." The council chamber fell silent. Finally, the council leader turned to the guards. "Bring the encrypted device," he ordered. The small silver cube containing the hidden data was placed at the center table. Evan had already broken part of its encryption the night before. Now the Academy's main system finished the decryption. Streams of clean, organized data appeared on the holographic screen. The room turned quiet as the truth became clear. Unauthorized fleet shifts, secret communications, false reports with Wren's digital signature, a planned signal that would be sent to 2 allied fleets at the wrong time, was causing confusion and possible panic. It was undeniable. Officer Wren lowered his head. His lies no longer had any place to hide. Council Leader Aaron stood tall. "Officer Wren," he said, "you will be removed from your position and placed under investigation. You have endangered the safety of many worlds." Guards stepped forward. Wren did not resist. As they escorted him out of the room, Lyra felt the dishonesty fade like smoke carried away by wind. The tension in the chamber slowly lifted. The council leader turned to Lyra. "And Evan, your efforts prevented a serious threat. You have acted with courage, intelligence, and unity. The Academy recognizes your actions." Yvonne nodded with calm respect. Lyra felt a warm brightness in his emotional signature, something she now understood as gratitude. She looked at him with a small smile. Council Leader Aaron continued. "Lyra Veth, your ability remains a valuable gift. This Academy will trust your warnings in the future." Lyra breathed out, relieved. For the first time since the briefing, she felt fully understood. "And Evan Corrin," the leader said next, "your attention to detail and your unique human intuition were essential. Many species have studied data for centuries, but you discovered a pattern even our top analysts missed." Evan nodded again, quietly proud. After the hearing, the two cadets walked outside. The sunlit courtyard was filled with soft wind and friendly voices. Students who once doubted them now looked at them with respect. A young reptilian cadet approached. "Is it true?" he asked. "You two stopped a serious problem?" Evan smiled politely. "We just followed the signs," Lyra added, "and we trusted each other." The cadet nodded, impressed, and returned to his group. More students gathered around, asking questions, wanting to hear the story. Lyra and Evan answered calmly, happy the truth was finally known. Later that day, Lyra and Evan sat on a quiet bench near the academy garden. A gentle breeze moved through the tall silver-leaf trees. "You were brave in there," Evan said. "When you stood up to him," Lyra looked at him. "I only spoke the truth. But you were brave too. You saw patterns no one else could see." Evan shrugged slightly. "Humans are good at noticing strange things." Lyra laughed softly. "That is true." For a moment they both sat in peaceful silence. The events of the last days had been difficult, but they had also brought understanding between two cadets, between two species. Lyra's senses reached out naturally. She felt Evan's calm, steady emotional field, honest, clear, familiar. There was no confusion. "No hidden meaning, no false signal, you know," she said. "When I first met you, I was surprised, because you couldn't sense any lies. Yes, at first I thought humans were hard to read, but then I understood something." "What?" "That you speak honestly with your heart as well as your words." Evan blinked, then gave a small smile. "That's a good thing, right?" "It is a very good thing," Lyra confirmed. Their friendship had grown from trust, and trust had grown from honesty. Later that evening, the Academy sent a message across all its worlds. It spoke of cooperation, of unity, of how two young cadets prevented a dangerous misunderstanding. The message carried hope, reminding everyone what could be achieved when different species worked together. Lyra and Evan's actions traveled farther than they knew. Leaders from distant planets read the report. Fleets updated their protocols. New training programs on honesty detection and multi-species cooperation were planned. Their story became a lesson in the Academy. Truth is strongest when shared. Unity is strongest when trusted. And honesty is strongest when it comes from unexpected places. That night, as the stars filled the sky above the Academy, Lyra stood by the balcony near her dorm. She looked up at the lights, imagining distant worlds now connected by the truth they uncovered. Evan joined her quietly. "Long day," he said. "Yes," she agreed. "But a good one? Ready for the next mission?" Lyra smiled. "As long as we face it together?" Evan nodded. Together. The two cadets stood side by side, watching the stars. Their journey had started with one detected lie. Now, it had grown into something larger, something that echoed across worlds with hope and unity. And in that peaceful moment, Lyra knew one thing with complete certainty. The first true honesty she had ever sensed at the Academy had come from a human. And that honesty had helped save countless lives.